Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. This is going to be an interactive meeting, even though we're all at our offices or at home. We're going to have some interactive questions through this to try to get some input from the public. We have a lot of slides to run through, so I'll just give you a short introduction that the park planning and landscape architecture firm Upland Design has partnered with Rudiger and Tonelli and Associates, a civil engineer and planning firm, to put together a streetscape master plan for the village of Peatone. We're very focused on the downtown, and you can see some photos here of that. And our goal is to create a master plan that the village can implement that really fits what you all want to see in your downtown to try to improve it. So what does that mean for tonight? Let's see here if we can. We're going to go through some existing conditions. We have 3 different concepts of what the downtown could look like: amenities, landscape, furniture, lighting, all of those sorts of things in 3 different concepts for you to review and vote on. Then we're going to go down the road of talking about parking, and then finally wrap up the evening with wayfinding and gateway elements. And then we'll give you just the overview of next steps to take to complete this master plan and get something built. So our first question: how often do you currently go downtown Peatone? So every day, once a month, once a week, or never? So see, Liz, can you pop up our question? There we go. All right, so on your screen, you should see the question. You can just select it like you're taking a multiple question test from your days in school. And then after you finish, this is kind of our practice vote, we will get to see the answers. So go ahead and vote, just press the button. All right. And as soon as we see that the majority of people have voted, then we'll actually pop up the answer. So let's see here. All right, so there we go. 40% of our attendees tonight go every day, and 33% once a week, 24% once a month, and 2% never. All right, well, let's hope that we can move the nevers. Okay, fabulous. You guys did a great job on our first vote there. So what are the project limits? We're starting in the north in Crawford, going down to Corning on the south. On the west side, North First, and then on the east side, North Railroad Street. So that really is that core area that we're looking at. In a little bit, we've gone beyond there in just a little bit of ways to make sure that we understand the setting and really looked at the town. But those are the areas that we're looking at working on. What's out there now? We did a good inventory of existing lighting, site furniture, the existing street trees. Most of them are a small ornamental crabapple, and street signs, which have a little bit of charm with their blue colors and their squirrely work on the top. The lighting is pretty old, over 50 years old. And other site furniture that you might see in a downtown, such as benches or other seating, there really isn't very much other than maybe what a business might have put out. So part of our work was looking at the existing right-of-way and sidewalk widths, as well as parking. So we did some cross sections. These are existing cross sections here. of what's going on. Most of the downtown has angled parking with a lane in each direction. And then the width of the right of way, which is property line to property line, varies just a little bit from a low of 70 feet to a high of 80 feet. So that's really the area that we have to work on. While the sidewalk varies quite a bit, some of the most narrow sidewalks are found on North Street and they're only 3 foot wide, where while we have a little bit wider ones, we up to even 9 feet and 10 feet on Main Street or Second in certain areas. So that gives you the variety of pedestrian spaces that are found. All right. So here's a blow up that really shows you how that right of way is being used. This is Second Street. You can see on, we have angled parking, drive lanes, angled parking, and then we have a variety of different widths of sidewalk depending on which part of downtown you're in. And here's Main. And again, very similar layout for the automobile areas, while the sidewalks on Main are a little bit narrower with 6 foot and 9 foot. And you can see that here. All right. So before we get into the ideas, we want you to just think about if there was one thing you could change about the current downtown, what would it be? And you can see there's seven different options, 6 of them being kind of standalone. If you have a priority: sidewalks, pedestrian circulation, lighting, seating. So that could be benches, seat walls, even cafe tables, the road condition, parking, street trees and landscape, and or all of the above. And Liz, can you pop that up for us? Awesome, great. Now that you're all practiced, you can vote for your favorite. All right, while you're all voting, there is a chat box on your screen as part of this webinar. And if you have a question that comes up, something on the screen, something you want to ask and make sure we cover, feel free to put your question in that chat box. And in some cases, we'll be able to answer it right in the middle here. And other times we may wait till the end. So, but feel free to add that at any time. All right, it's just about everybody voted there, Liz. All right, there we go. So lighting and street trees and landscape came really high up there, but look at that, all of the above. Okay, so we have some good amount of people that are excited about everything in that category. All right, that's great. All right, so let's get to the ideas. As we have been working on the streetscape since December, the ideas, we've been able to meet with various groups. We had a very nice stakeholder meeting with people that run businesses or maybe help with events or own buildings or other community leaders that came together and had a similar meeting with lots of good discussion. So we want to share a few of the highlights that came through those meetings that we heard. And one was creating a festival space, making sure that that there is space in downtown with whatever is planned, that festivals can still happen. And that would even include, say, the car show that the downtown is so famous for. So making sure that that can still happen and that we have spaces for that. Parking, that was really a good discussion element, and we'll show you a number of different parking ideas because parking became, a good topic to discuss and kind of figure out and make sure that we hear from you all. And then pedestrian zone, and some of these photos you see here on the left, they are all photos that idea images that people voted for, more people voted for as we talked to stakeholders, and tried to use some of those ideas to develop the concepts. Things that we heard that were important were seating. that we would create landscape, but at the same time not create something that was too much maintenance. To make sure that the charm of Peatone is honored and that classic elements were used for some of the materials. So you'll see that throughout the ideas, that those strong concepts really are pulled through the potential options for this evening. The other thing that that we heard was making sure that pedestrians could flow and circulate easily in downtown, getting from their car to a business. And then also that there was some room for amenities, whether that's a street tree or a seat wall or a pot, that there is actually some space in the downtown to create that kind of charm and welcome. And welcome was a big thing that we heard, to make sure that the downtown feels welcoming. So this is a highlight page that shows the site plan of the downtown streetscape focus area, which is in green. So that's Main Street. Second, for these 2 blocks, east end of North and along Railroad. And then the transitional streetscape areas, which are really right next to the downtown, but often have a balance of some residential and some commercial. So that's our outer streets of Crawford, First, and Corning, and then a little bit of Railroad as well. And a lot of these streets, you still see some angled parking that is very important to the downtown. And then these blue areas are improved parking lots. These are areas owned by the railroad, but leased by the village that could have improved parking. A couple other things to note is these the big stars are some kind of festival gateway arch that are being proposed to create that festival space. And then some additional entry features, whether it's a major entry feature on a corner, you see here or down here, or a minor one you might see as you come out of the railroad parking lots. So these are some key elements pieces that we want to fit together and help people know that they've arrived in the downtown. One other thing to note is this pink line here is actually an potential alley improvement. People are already using that, taking photos in the alley. And so is that possible for a potential improvement? It seemed like something that needed to be included in the master plan. All right, on to the concepts. So each concept has materials, furniture, lighting, and landscape. And I'm going to go through each one, talking a little bit about the materials and the look. And then at the closure of the concepts, you'll see all 3 again and get to vote. So start thinking in your head, which one do you think fits best for downtown Peatone? This one uses the colors and the textures coming from those early dairy farms that where Peatone was first established. So you can see the beautiful greens and reds, and that really turns into a rich red with a tan paver, and complemented with this buttery limestone, a little bit similar to the Joliet limestone that we see in the area. And so we take those materials and lay them out in the streetscape pattern, where we have a combination of brick areas you see here on the corner, and then some amenity areas with brick lining the streetscape. And then this interior area where more of the pedestrian walking occurs, the access into businesses is a poured concrete. So that balance you'll see in all 3 of the concepts of having both the rich paver textures, but complemented with the concrete where it gets more pedestrian use. So in this one, the brick bands are highlighted here, creating amenity zones where we have benches here and pots in the center here, and then small landscape areas like this one or this one that are complemented with a seawall. So you can see a seawall here and one here on the corner, and dotted along the whole street are lights. We're showing this kind of curb. This is your curb right at the face of parking. The parking layouts we'll actually talk about later. So none of the concepts are a have to for one parking layout or a different. The ideas on the concepts is you really are looking at the materials and the furniture and the look. So here's the concept A furniture palettes. Give you an idea. You can see what that seat wall might look like. A light that ties in with it. This is, I think, somewhat of a charming bench, but it's a steel bench with a powder coat finish. So it's meant to last in the elements and meant to be used. A very simple litter receptacle, and then a variety of size pots. So the pots can be put together in a 3 like this, or could be a single pot. If we're down in the sections where it's skinnier, we could have just one pot. And you can see this is a typical street tree with a small landscape bed. The idea would be some perennials, things that wouldn't have to be replanted every year and would need low water usage once established. So there's concept A all together, and all the pieces, including the inspiration photo and how they tie into one look. All right, so now I'm going to go to B, and you'll see some really similar pieces. Our inspiration here is the windmill. And again, the warm colors that you see on the windmill get pulled into this palette, and including what I think of more of kind of a deep red, almost maroon paver, and a little bit more rustic of a limestone. This cut is a little bit more rustic than you saw in the concept A. So here's our layout of pavers. So this is a mix of 2 colors, and they get mixed throughout the whole palette, as you see here. Nice big curves. We were thinking of the turning windmill as part of these curves. So this is your seat wall here, made of the stone here. And then small landscape beds with a few evergreen shrubs in it, give you some color in the winter. And again, then we have our bands of pavers that run along the street with the lights, benches, pots. And again, this is a concrete walk, making easy access to the businesses. I just want to note here, in each of these, you'll see a band right along that parking. This is a nice wide 18 inches. And then it also has a 6-inch curb. So it gives room for someone when they park to have that place to step off of the parking area and a nice landing spot. And here's our furniture. You can see again, this would be just one size pot in this layout. Lovely curve on the bench. This is a steel bench, powder coated frame, but then these slats are a recycled lumber slat, so they won't need to be stained year after year, and again made to last a long time, and a little bit more ornamental litter receptacle in this concept. This gives you an idea of what that seat wall would look like. And then finally the light, and the light has a nice curve. It ties into the bench curve. It also ties into the existing street signs that have the nice frilly work on top. So here's our whole concept B. And now on to concept C. Inspired by the trains that run through downtown. All 3 of these photos are actually photos taken near Peatone. The trains are really a strong piece of downtown. And so this inspiration has a little bit more rugged and a little bit more industrial look. So you see the gray added in with the red paver, and then more of a gray with a little bit of tan in our seat walls. And that train is really, we used playfully. So going down the street, you almost have a set of tracks. I'm not sure that people would pick up on that so much in the walking down the road, but it really pulls that nice rugged gray paver in these lines, and then welcomes you into these amenity zone along here where the red is highlighted. And then of course you get the gray on the outside again, and a little bit of our train wheel. Maybe this is the wheelhouse where trains change tracks, or maybe it's the wheel on a train. And then the edges here and here of this big circle are seat walls where the stone is used here. The other piece on this one is we've created a column on the corners here and here, and that column is where a pot would sit on top, much like you see right here. The pot could also sit right at grade level, and this gives you an idea of what that seawall would look like. This is the one concept where the street tree is in an actual grate, and you can see again the curves that we've put into the paver design is also found in the tree grate. And another bench with a steel powder coated frame and that recycled lumber as its back. And there's our light over here. Again, a little more gray, a little bit more industrial look for the light on concept C. So here it is all together with one big look. So now it will be your turn to vote. I'm going to flip here to, oops, go too fast there. There is all three. We can keep it on there. And then you all can vote on which one that you like the best. And you can move your poll around. If it's in front of the one you want to look at, just move the poll off to the side with your mouse, and you can decide which option you want. All right, we'll just give it a few more seconds here for people to vote. And then Liz, if it looks like everybody has gotten their vote in, you can switch to our answer. All right, there's A, B, and C. Well, A looks like it got the most votes, but B was a very close second. So wonderful. Thank you so much. And C fell behind by just a bit, not too far, but that's kind of exciting to see so many that liked each of the concepts. Hopefully we're hitting the right notes with this overall design. All right, thanks so much. We're going to go on to talking about parking for a bit. The first area is the railroad parking. So this is already leased by the village. This is the south area. This is the north. And these photos here give you just a view. If you're standing up here looking south, that's this view. And if you're standing down here looking north. So angle parking is already happening there. There are some wheel stops and a building right in the middle. So what could we do? One of the discussions was to create a more pleasant parking experience, and one that was kind of tied into the overall master plan. So this layout shows how we can continue to use that angle parking, but create some islands at the ends here. These are 3 trees here in an island, and be able to create a one-way to park on the back side, and then a row of trees down the center. You can see an example how it might be, we have some grasses, some low maintenance perennials, or maybe here a low ivy plants and the trees, so that we really have this backdrop of color and texture in the parking lot and a little bit more welcoming. That's the south area. This gives you a look of how that could look in both parking lots. Here's the building in the center, and that layout very similar where we create the one way out and in for these. There's a little sidewalk right here, you notice, and that is to be able to, if you're parked on this side, walk through here and then use the alley to get over to Second. So the parking count that creates is 35 spaces up here in the north and 46 spaces down in the south. One of the questions that came up was, are we losing a lot of spaces by adding the trees in? And the answer to that is that you might lose a couple spaces right at the ends, but because you're striping and adding a little bit more formality, you're probably about even with that. Maybe a loss of one or two. And that overall, though, a new pleasant experience for parking along the railroad. So the next area we're going to talk about is parking options along the main downtown streets. So that is along Main Street, the 2 blocks of North 2nd that are downtown, and the east end of North. These are the 3 street areas that we're talking about potentially adjusting the parking layout. So we have 3 options, and then at the end of presenting the 3, you get to see a vote. You get to vote on which one you like the best. Layout 1 is moving to all parallel parking. So right now it's all angle parking, and this has an existing parking in downtown, not including the railroad parking area of 247 spaces. If we go to proposed parallel parking only, we go to 166. And so that's the change for that layout. What that also does is it gives the pedestrian zone a much wider area. Right now along, say, Main Street or 2nd Street, the sidewalk might be 8 foot wide or 10 foot wide. And if we're go to parallel, the same sidewalk would be 15 feet on Main Street and 16 on parts of 2nd and 20 on parts of 2nd. Part of 2nd is a little bit wider than the right of way is. So that's why we have a range of 16 to 20 on 2nd. And then on North Street, we're as narrow as 4 feet. The sidewalk is pretty narrow, and this would actually give us something more like 18 feet. So there's a really positive change for creating that pedestrian area where we can add benches. We could, businesses could potentially put out cafe tables, much like we've seen during the last year, where parking spots turned into actually outdoor dining. Some of this would be something that could be more permanent by adjusting the actual edge of the sidewalk. So I'll just, one more time, I'll say that that this would be on these 3 streets is what we're talking about. So the other part of North, all down here and along First, none of that parking would be changed, and it would remain angle parking. So that's what we're talking about for these 3 options. And let's look at layout 1. The 2nd Street existing, this shows you how that lays out right now. And what you get is a little bit more narrow sidewalk on one side than the other. But when it's redesigned, we actually balance that out so that both sides get the same. Okay, and then here in Main Street, here's the existing. So you can see we have 6 feet over on this side and 9 feet on this side. Well, when you go to the proposed, you end up with 16 feet on both sides. Okay, so it's a pretty big change when we go to parallel parking, allowing room for a number of amenities. All right, and so here is parking option 2. This is parallel and angled parking. So a combination where one side is parallel, the other side is angled. The parking change is that existing is the same, and then the proposed is 196 spaces. There's a great photo that shows you exactly what that kind of dual types of parking looks like. And our proposed sidewalks can go about 10 foot to even up to 14 on 2nd Street, but you end up with 10 foot here and here, both sides. Again, it gets evened out when we adjust the actual parking spots. So here's the look of that, what that would look like. You can see that you right now go from all angle on both sides to parallel on one side and angled on the other. And you can see the difference where a standard angled space takes 19 feet while a parallel space takes 9. And that's where you can really see the difference on what is here. The existing angled parking are actually a little bit narrow, but that gives you kind of that overall look. Same thing with Main Street. We go from being 6 and 9 feet to having the 11 feet on both sides. All right, and finally, parking layout number 3 is a little bit of a zigzag. So on one side of the street, we get angled, and then the road takes a little bit of a turn, and then you get it on the other side. And the thought is that whatever side you want to be on, you could park on that side and not need to cross the street. But we also allows for a mid block crossing, so that people can easily get across. You can see it creates nodes on your street as well, like you see over here. This is a great example. And then you see how it has a little bit of a jog. This goes down to 155 spaces, and our width of the proposed sidewalk is around 15 feet on each side, and on second, 14 to 18. So that gives you that change. So this is our cross sections. Again, showing you that variety. So you just get this angled parking on one side, and you still get your 2 drive lanes. And then our width varies, 19 feet. And then down here, you can see 15 feet. So here's our 3 options. So you can kind of see all of the numbers together. I'll just quickly mention one more time that with layout 1, you have 247 existing parking spots, and you end with 166, not including railroad. And we get a proposed sidewalk on both sides of the street of between 15 foot wide and 20 foot wide. With option layout 2, it goes to 196 spaces, and our pedestrian area is between 10 foot and 14 foot wide on both sides of the street. And finally, option 3 is 155 spaces, and our width is 15 feet to 18 feet width for sidewalk on both sides of the street. So quick summary, you see here's our photos down at the bottom of what those each look like: parallel, combination, and alternating sides of angle. And now we're hoping you will vote on which one that you like the best. Oh, and one of in our chat, someone had asked about parallel with option 3. And you could do parallel with option 3. That is a possibility. It would cut down on spaces more than the 155 that we have in this layout. So that would be the negative, but it would make the proposed sidewalk even wider. So I think that would be something good to compare, is that balance between the width of the sidewalk and the number of spaces. Someone also asked if we could combine 2 and 3. And I think the options are honestly endless. So we want to hear from you what you like the best. And then as we move forward, we'll take all that input that we're getting tonight, and then be able to kind of start honing the best layout that people want, and also balances the needs of having enough parking. All right. If everybody has voted, we will close up that voting. See what our answers are. All right, so layout 1, we got 30%, layout 2, 48%, and layout 3, 23%. So almost half of our attendees this evening voted for layout 2, which is that parallel and angled parking together. All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. We have a pretty good amount desiring the other 2 as well. So maybe a combination may be the answer. We'll work that out a little bit and see how it can fit. All right. If you have another comment you want to share and it's not a question, feel free to put that in the chat too. We're happy to take all comments this evening. It's hard to have everyone be able to, share everything in a meeting like this, but the chat, we will keep all of that data and use that to help us move forward. All right, so our next section is wayfinding and gateway elements. So we're, in essence, as part of the design, we're tasked to highlight the amazing Peatone downtown. We have a wonderful number of buildings and an overall look of it being this historic downtown, really seen in the sign here. So how do we build on that? An easy one is something that's a little bit larger that can point people to historic downtown Peatone. And then what's the next thing that we might want to do? Maybe something with a little more flair. And this is a light up sign, much like you might see an LED on the inside of this. It could light up the wonderful warm yellow, but it also could bring some colors during other times of the year, say maybe green at the holidays or red at Valentine's Day, maybe it's red, white, and blue during the 4th of July week. In any case, these 2 pieces go together. The larger becomes really kind of a welcome larger one for a major corner, while a smaller one might be the one you see when you come out of the parking lot by the railroad, welcoming people obviously downtown. It's also something that people could take a selfie by. And in this option you see here, these wonderful spirals, they're a nod to the windmill. Maybe they're even the Ferris wheel of the county fair. There's this wonderful spinning sun, could be even fireworks. So this is a wayfinding feature that really could go with any of the options. But one of the questions we had was, maybe this look isn't quite the right look. Maybe you would rather have something that's more vertical and lines and a little bit more modern, like a bee here. Or maybe it's the grasses of the prairie that tie into the sign, and you can see that here in C. So take a look at those, and when you're ready, you can give us a vote on which one you think fits the best for downtown Peatone. I'll just give you a little more information while we're waiting for y'all to vote. These, there's a really designed with a stone base that would tie into the seat walls. The actual frame of this would be steel with a powder coat finish, and the inside has a polycarbonate with an LED light system. So something that's really controllable either on the whole light system of downtown, or could even be separately controlled with just Wi-Fi. So these the modern day lights are pretty amazing. And we have a lot of flexibility in designing custom pieces. All right. So the grasses were the number one at 47%, that's C, and 29% with A, with our Ferris wheel / wind wheel, and B, the modern lines came in third. So good, but still not all in one category. So that's great to see the different ones that people like. Another piece that really establishes the downtown with a little bit of flair, as well as the feeling of a festival and a welcome, is this gateway arch. The arch is about 30 foot wide and approximately 14 foot to the underside where a car would drive under. It gives you a full idea. This sign, of course, is another one we'd love to see built and people taking photos of and Instagramming, and then other people wanting to come visit Peatone. Gives you an idea of scale with our gentleman standing over here. This one you see in the picture here is kind of a charcoal black, but maybe this is something that should tie into the streetscape signs, the blues that are already downtown that we want to tie into, the blue that's on your new logo for the Village of Peatone. And so we'd love for you to vote. What do you think fits better? Their classic black or the little bit more highlighted with the blue in B. So put up our votes. And again, while you're voting, these are also metal. It would be like a punched metal where you can see light come through, and then also the Peatone letters are a punched metal. All right. Did everybody get their vote in? We have 58% loving the classic black and 42% with the blue. Thanks for voting. Wonderful. So this slide shows you all the pieces together. And the idea is that obviously they tie together with whichever concept that we end up with, that these slight adjustments would be made so that overall they really fit into the overall Peatone look. And where those are, going back to the early slide that we saw, gateways up here at the corner of Crawford and 2nd, and then at Main and 2nd. The idea is that when you're on Main Street, you'd actually be able to see that gateway as well. And then our signs, our number 2s, really are light up and an entry feature as well. So that would be here at North and 1st, at Corning and 1st, and then up at Crawford and Railroad, and then also at Village Hall. And finally, our little bit smaller welcome signs we're showing as you come out of the railroad parking here at the alley. So kind of welcoming you through that space, and then also down here at the corner of North and Railroad. And when the road is closed for festivals, that you really get that piece here, and then one at each end of the festival space on 2nd. So so that you really feel like when the road is closed, that you have those barriers on both ends. Another piece that people that we heard a lot of positive comments was to potentially add catenaries lighting. So the string lights that you saw in the festival photo earlier, and those could be on that festival space street as well on North and 2nd. So I'll give you some ideas on that. So next steps. The next thing we'll be doing is design refinement. So we have all these ideas and we got this great input tonight. The village will put both this presentation recording as well as all of the main pieces that you saw this evening, the concepts for parking, the concepts for streetscape layouts, and all the wayfinding signage will go up on the website. So anybody could be able to click onto a quick, easy PDF and see all of those. So if you want to share those with anybody else who couldn't come this evening, please do. So with the input that we've gotten this evening, we're going to make a recommendation on streetscape style, parking layout, the wayfinding signs and features, and we'll get into cost estimating. We had a couple questions about the actual cost of the streetscape, and that is part of our next phase. Now that we've gotten this great public input, we'll start looking at cost. But in general, the A, B, and C concepts were very similar in their overall cost from a material standpoint and the amount of brick paving versus concrete. So we tried to do some very equal across the board designs on A, B, and C, so that whatever you chose fit into that sort of middle of the road cost on a streetscape. We're neither at the very fancy end or the very low expensive side. We're really right in the middle. All right, so we'll make a recommendation to the board and the mayor, and they all will be able to discuss that, and then in essence reply back on what things they agree or want to see adjusted, and then we'll draw the actual master plan on that whole area that you saw on the map this evening. And then the village board will get to see that again, and we'll talk about a phasing plan so that there's a plan out there to actually get it built. And again, the board will get to review that and adjust anything. And then the goal is hopefully to approve the master plan to move forward. So that gives you an overview of our next steps. Do we have any other questions, Amy or Mayor, that we should jump in on?
I think I could try to answer when they came in, so I don't know if there's any open ones there. But if anybody has any other questions, feel free to type in the chat there.
I don't know if you heard that, Michelle, but you've probably seen the mayor's been keeping up on answering as many questions as have come in the chat. So if any more come in, he'll definitely answer them if we have time.
Okay, wonderful. Oh, good. I'm so glad I couldn't look at that and present at the same time. So it's wonderful. All right. I'm gonna just go back to this plan one more time and just leave this up. If anybody has other questions they want to ask, this would be a great time. And we got kind of enough time to answer things.
So there's a couple questions on the time frame of the next step. I don't know if it's something that I was busy answering questions. So
that question just popped up if that's what you saw.
Yeah.
So time frame, do you have time frames associated with those next steps?
Yeah, so those will be happening in March and April. That is, the hope is that by the end of April, that the board will have a full master plan that they will be able to review, comment on, and approve. All right, there's a question/comment that it might make more sense to put one of the gateway arches over Corning and Second. So let's see here. Yeah, potentially that could be.
So Michelle, are the questions going to be available when we post this online? Is the chat box going to be available?
The chat bot doesn't pop up, but anything that we answered on, I mean, the video is this is being recorded, the webinar is, so anybody will be able to hear those. But if we could do a question and answer like PDF and just be able to have that to be posted on the web too, if you'd like.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay, awesome. Let me see if there's anything else here. Sorry. Okay, and what's the completion timeline look like? Mayor, would you like to answer that one, what the completion timeline is? Because I know you have goals.
Sure. I mean, obviously it depends on the cost, how much we can get done at a time, but we'll definitely look at completing, to get started on the first phase. My goal is to get started by the fall and to get that first phase finished up by the end of 2022. Again, how much we can get done, of course, will depend on the cost, but it's definitely something we're going to move forward with.
So recommendations will be be put together in the next week, and then the final plan would be going to the board in April. So just to give you a little bit more detail on that, that's the current plan. So if anybody else wants to give comments, Amy, Mary, is there a good way for them to get that to us?
I mean, I guess the best way is to, there's a couple different ways. They can either, obviously the old fashioned way, they can call and leave a message for me or Amy if they have a question. They can certainly send an email to mayor@villageofpeatone.com. They can send a message on Facebook that we'll answer. So there's a variety of ways they can reach out.
And then somebody asked, will their building owners be contacted to remind them to make their property more presentable?
So part of the reason why we're doing this is we want to increase the, we want to update the streets and the streetscape so that investors and owners will be willing to invest in their buildings. We also have TIF funds available that if people want to remodel their storefront, the TIF funds are there that help with that as well. So we're kind of hoping that by making the space look super attractive, that we're going to attract people who want to make their building look nicer and put a nice business in there.
Very good. All right, we will give it one more minute and see if anybody has any other questions. I think we had something like 55 visitors this evening. So thank you to everyone who came. This is just great to be able to have people get together even during these crazy times and be able to give some input on something pretty exciting. Right. Well, Amy and Mayor, I don't see any other questions. I see some lots of thank yous. So just a big you're welcome and thanks for coming this evening. This was really fun to have people's input.
So there's a couple, I don't know if you're looking at the question and answer box, but there's a few in there as well.
Oh, there is. I'm looking at the chat.
So there is a question about will the roads be replaced? And yes, we will have to do kind of a total rebuild of the whole street. That Second and Main are, they've been there for 150 years. And so, yeah, we're not just going to work on the sidewalks. The whole streets will have to be redone. Let's see. There was a couple of questions about can we choose elements from one concept? You know, but if we like another concept, and I guess my answer is that is, you know, we don't have to get too hung up in details right now. We just kind of want to get an idea of a color palette and a look. And, you know, we'll certainly be picking out those specific elements in the future. Yeah, so let's see what other questions we have. There's a bunch more. Let's see. So there's a couple of questions about the small lot on the corner of 2nd and North Street that has the large fir tree that we decorated for Christmas. You know, unfortunately, that the village does not own that lot. It's been talked about possibly purchasing that lot, but that's, you know, those plans are all kind of to be determined. But so since we don't own that lot, we didn't want to include any specific design elements at this time. So I think that's about it. I want to really thank everybody for joining us and giving us ideas. I want to keep the dialogue open. Like I said, please feel free to not only contact me, but contact the trustees, contact the staff with questions. We want to make this, you know, work for everybody and make it an exciting and wonderful place for people to come together in downtown Peatone and be able to have car shows and festivals and really a neat place to come all year round. So with that, I am going to continue with our meeting. If there's any questions of the press, which I don't see anybody here, and there's any correspondence from the rest of the board right now? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved by trustee Maravka, second by trustee Sluse.
Maravka? Yes. Sluse?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.